Konnichiwa, mammals. Today I got a nice spooky urban legend for you from the land of Japan. That's right, we're going to be covering the horror that is Kuchisake-Onna, the slit-mouthed woman. As with any legend, there are different iterations, and as I go through the story of Kuchisake-Onna, I will at times point out when there are differences in majority of the stories that are told. So let's start at the beginning. She was apparently the wife of a samurai, and she was very beautiful. However, her samurai husband was always away on business or war, and she would often grow lonely in that time. And she ended up cheating on her samurai husband. And depending on the story, it's either with one man or several. Because she cheated on him, he ended up finding out. He was not happy about it, and he ended up slicing her face from ear to ear. Then, depending on the iteration, he leaves her mutilated and she either ends her own existence, or after mutilating her and making her feel ugly, he then kills her himself. Then you have some versions where she's the mistress to the samurai and his wife finds out. She's super jealous, so she then decides to mutilate and kill Kuchisake-Onna. Or sometimes she's going through a medical procedure to make herself more beautiful, and that ends up horribly mutilating her face. And then you have another version which came on way later on from when the original story started, where she was apparently an escaped mental patient that mutilated herself, or she had escaped the mental facility and in her escape attempt she steals a vehicle, gets into a car crash and dies, and her face ends up getting torn open in the car accident. But with all of these stories, one thing that always stays the same is that her face gets mutilated, to the point where her face is split open from ear to ear. After her death, she comes back as a vengeful spirit called an Onryo. She dons some kind of face covering, whether it's a rag or a surgical mask or even a hand fan, and she carries around a sharp weapon. A lot of modern depictions like to show it as a giant pair of scissors, but she can also be carrying a knife or a machete or maybe some form of farming equipment like a sickle. In her spectral state, she wanders streets and alleyways looking for a lone victim. If you happen to be that lone victim, she'll typically approach you. She's this tall, slender, pale woman with long, straight black hair, wearing a mask or some kind of face covering. She'll just approach you, and she'll ask you, "Do you think I'm pretty?" If you respond with no, then she'll either kill you on the spot right then and there, or she'll continue on her way, and later, when you're at home, tucked in your bed, she'll pop out and start stabbing you. Now, if you tell her yes, she will then pull down her mask and show you her horrific scar across her face. Or in some iterations, she's just got blood all over her face as if the cut is fresh. And then she would ask you once again, "Am I pretty?" I'm sure she'll probably wait until you're done screaming. Now, if you respond with no, she'll proceed to then murder you. However, if you say yes, thinking that this will maybe get you out of there, she will then carve the same smile that's on her face into your face. So you two can now be besties. Yeah, she's not a waifu you want to meet. Now, you're probably wondering, is there any way of escaping her? If answering yes or no doesn't get you anywhere, what if you just run? Well, according to legend, with her ghostly abilities, she can easily catch up to you and kill you. Or she'll let you run off, you'll think you're safe, and then she'll just, again, kill you in your house. There are ways of escaping her. You can throw some hard candies at the floor in her direction, and she'll stop to pick them up because she loves hard candies, apparently. Or you could throw some money, which then, again, she'll stop and collect it. And I don't blame her. In this day and age, this economy, things are rough. You can also tell her that she looks average, 5 out of 10, mid-tier. And apparently, that'll put her in a state of confusion where she'll just walk away, dumbfounded, unable to respond to your response. And one other tactic, apparently, is to tell her that you're running late for something, in which case she's polite enough to let you go on your way, which I find strange because she'll murder you if you do answer her. Yokai are weird. So how did the legend begin? Well, what limited information exists, I was able to find that potentially it started somewhere in the 16 to 1800s, Japan's Edo period. I even found an artist's rendition from 1801 of the legend. And I guess from that time period, written accounts and oral accounts were passed down through different people up until about the late 1970s, when she suddenly became more written about in several publications from magazines to newspapers. I found that between January 1979 to April 1979, multiple different publications wrote about her story, with different iterations mentioned each time. And this started to scare some of the people, and creating this kind of panic and mass hysteria. And rumors then started spreading that she was potentially abducting and killing children. People were allegedly seeing a lone woman with a surgical mask just wandering around by herself, sometimes near schools or near groups of children. And this kind of stuff freaked people out so much that you even had schools having the teachers and teachers' aides escorting students home to make sure none of them were getting abducted and murdered. To me, it kind of felt a little out of character for Kuchisake-Onna. She went from this samurai's wife turned vengeful spirit, finding lone wanderers and asking them if she's pretty and murdering them in the process, to now just abducting and killing children. I mean, she's definitely scary to look at, and a good way to scare children into not talking to strangers. Kind of a strange way to twist the legend. In the modern era, Kuchisake-Onna has been represented in a lot of media in Japan and worldwide. This includes movies, TV shows, manga, comics, anime, and video games. Whether she's the main character or a side character, or in some stuff she's just mentioned but not shown, she has made quite an impact on pop culture in general. In fact, there are some people in Japan who actually think her story is real and that she's an actual spirit that you could potentially encounter. And in my research, I found two interesting things. One being from a poll in 2013, about half of Japan's population, or a little more than half of Japan's population, believe in some form of paranormal entities. Doesn't necessarily have to be ghosts or demons, but to some degree, majority of people in Japan believe that things like Kuchisake-Onna could exist. And I also found that Kuchisake-Onna was officially considered a yokai when she was put in an official yokai encyclopedia, which I found very interesting and is going to be a book that I want to buy and read myself. Well, that's the video. It's a shorter one this time around. Not much information for something like this. Still a really cool and creepy urban legend. One I've heard of before but never really looked too deeply into. Kinda disappointed that there wasn't more information, but it was still fun to cover. I'd like to know what you think of the legend down in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos, subscribe. And if you like this video, maybe hit the like button. Or if you didn't hit the dislike button, it's fine. It only helps me improve. And subscribing only helps this channel in general. Until next time, I guess stay away from alleyways. Any attractive looking women with their faces covered approaching you, maybe it's best to turn the other way and walk a little faster. If she doesn't ask you the question, she can't kill you. That's the rule. Or, just tell her she's okay and move on with your day. Or I wonder if you could avoid her if you don't even make eye contact. If she tries to talk to you and you just keep walking like you're busy. I mean, if she's willing to let you go if you tell her you're late for something, maybe she'll just be like, hey, am I Oh, okay, you're just gonna keep walking? Alright, I'll go look for someone else. Anyway, see ya.